Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 21 of the $1 Million Ideas podcast. Hi, Ken. How's life? How's everything going?
Good. Feels good. In Bangkok, it's like cold every morning lately, which is... Yeah,
Like cold is like what? Like 22, 23 degrees or like cold?
Well, I think like 18 I've seen
That's pretty
in
cool.
the morning. In the afternoon,
Yeah.
it's hot, but
Yeah.
like especially I drive a motorbike, so like if you're driving a motorbike and it's the morning, like it's actually pretty cold.
Nice. Cool. Oh, well, same here. In Dubai, the temperature is dropping, and this is the best time if you're going to visit this part of the world. I think it gets down to like 15, 16, and that's almost perfect weather because if the sun comes out and it's 15, 16, it's like really, really nice. All right. So today we're going to continue our whole AI agents team that, we've been very bullish about, and practically the entire world is talking about this. And hopefully we can, tell people about like AI agents that are actually coming to the fro and making some serious money. So today's conversation is going to be about a staffing company, a recruiting company. And to give you some background, in 2023, they made $1 million in revenue. And in 2024, they made $50 million in revenue. So that's like insane growth. But before we get into the firm, let's talk about the recruiting space. It's one that I am quite familiar with because I did run a HR tech firm for quite a while and have been involved in recruiting. So have you ever been headhunted again or worked with recruiters or anything like that?
Yeah, headhunters for sure, many years. And when I was just like in college, I signed up for a staffing agency for the summer. And I got a job through a staffing agency, like a temp staffing agency, one of the big ones.
Right. Yeah. People don't realize, but these staffing agencies and recruitment agencies, the big ones, are actually really big firms. So when you look at it, I did some research before this call. If we look at the biggest professional staffing and recruiting firms, a few are up there. There's the Adecco Group, which has a market cap of $4.1 billion. There's Randstad, which has a market cap of $7 billion. Manpower Group, which has a market cap of $2.6 billion. Robert Half, which has a market cap of $6.8 billion. And Hayes PLC, which has a market cap of $1.6 billion. So these are really big firms. Ken, did you realize that these companies were as big as they are?
I always had the sense that they were big. And the reason is because a lot of these companies, I guess part of their model, like they have very prominent offices. When I lived in Europe, I remember like they always had a lot of outdoor billboards and whatnot. And so I always had the sense that they were quite large. I didn't know exactly how large, but my sense was always that they were kind of old school and, that they've probably gotten smaller in the last 10 years or so. So the fact that they're still that large, I think is, that's my surprise.
Yeah. No, I was really surprised as well. Like these are big companies. A majority of their revenues comes from this contingent staffing and temporary staffing services that they provide to a lot of companies. I know, like especially in Pakistan and places, that these companies would, Unilever would not hire a lot of people directly on their payroll. So they would get into contract with these people. They would say like, we need 300 people in the warehousing division, and then they would staff them up. And they do a lot of that. Then I dig deeper and I sort of like figured out like how much of their revenue comes from direct recruitment of professionals and things like that, which is the headhunting and things. It varied from anywhere between 14 to 25%. Hayes gets most of its revenue from professional placements, and it was the smallest at $1.6 billion. But these are all really big numbers. And it's an important problem that they're solving, because I think the recruitment model is broken as well when you think about it, right? So you recruit a lot of people from Upwork and from all over the place, right? Recruiting people is tough, isn't it? It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I think it depends on your approach.
Okay.
Like I do a very cursory style that probably most folks would find too cursory. But yeah, I mean, getting good folks like for the higher end stuff, yeah, you gotta takes time.
Yeah, there's also some biases, because let's just say that there are a lot of people. So let's sort of like take the area where Mercor is going, hiring engineers or anyone as a developer, designer. I remember in Philippines when we open positions for stuff like designers, I wouldn't be surprised that you get thousands of resumes that flow in, because there's just such a large base of people. And whenever you get such a large amount of people in, there's a special suite of software called ATSs, or applicant tracking systems. And these things have become pretty good over time. What they do is that they read through the resumes and things like that, and then you can actually filter on top of it. So you're like, listen, anyone who has less than 5 years of experience, I don't want to talk to them. If someone didn't go to this school, I don't want to talk to them. Whatever it may be, like you can filter people. And I think like this is the big problem. Both of us have hired extensively in Southeast Asia and in around the world, especially in developing markets where, there are several very, very good engineers, designers, you name it. And the problem comes down to discovery, doesn't it? Like if everyone could be assessed in this world objectively, and then you could actually get access to that data pool, that would be very valuable.
I agree. I think I've seen certain things improve, like where they'll record a video and stuff. So I think all that is helpful, but like it's still a big problem to be cracked.
My friend runs a company which does the whole video interviewing. And I remember back in the day I was working, we had a platform 2012-ish called Discover Match. And we were trying to do video interviewing and, getting that thing done so that, you do a 60-second interview. And the whole deal was that in 60 seconds with a few questions, you can actually figure something about the person out. And we used all these cursory type of methods, like you said, because the volume in Asia is just very, very large. I think most people don't realize. And then as you get to the bigger companies, with my friends who work at the bigger companies, again, like Uber or Meta opens a position and too many people apply. Anyway, so here's the problem. There's inefficiency in the labor market of actually objectively assessing everyone's skill sets, who they are. There are lots of biases in place. And as a result of that, several people do not get hired because they just get filtered out. And that's where this team and this company comes in. So here's well, you might know this, we shared notes, but the solution to this problem did not come from industry vets or people who have been dealing in the recruitment space for a very, very long time. The story is that, there are 3 21-year-olds who have launched this. And they were all studying at very, very good schools, Georgetown and Harvard. And something got them to drop out. And it was the Thiel Fellowship. Have you followed this? The $100K that Peter Thiel gives you to drop out of uni?
I mean, I haven't followed who's done it closely, but I know there's been some good success stories, and like it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time, and even Vitalik of Ethereum is Thiel Fellow and things like that. So there are like major success stories from it, and well, I don't know whether this one becomes the same, but these 3 guys were studying at this uni. 2 of them are from Indian backgrounds and understood like the problems that would they face, especially in terms of just filtration bias and all of that. And so they put together this platform, which is called Mercor. And to give you guys all the solution is an AI powered talent marketplace that uses these LLMs to evaluate candidates. And so what they do is, and actually to test this out, I actually got one of our junior devs at one of our dev agencies to go to the website and start the process. And he actually shared it with us yesterday. And so what you do is that you click apply, and then this AI bot shows up, human, and says, hey, thank you very much, Usman, for coming in for the interview today. I see that you're applying for, I don't know, the Meta's software engineer level 3 today. So, are you ready to start answering some questions? And you're like, yes. By the way, you got to turn your video on in these sort of like conversations. And then
you're looking at like a face.
Yeah, you're looking like a full-on
robot
face. And hopefully, in the cut, we're going to get actual footage from the interview in, so people can actually see this right now, what it looks like. And then it starts asking you questions. By the way, they do everything from engineering roles to design roles to content roles. So basically, the deal is that, in 2023, they sort of like launched and they started doing these interviews. To date, they have screened 300,000 candidates. And they've been around for like less than 2 years. And I wanted to figure out like how many candidates some of these larger firms would have screened, right? So let's say that, you generated $500 million in fees. They don't necessarily, I'll have to go deeper into the annual reports to try to figure it out. But I don't know whether these people are doing 300,000 interviews. If a normal interview with a person takes 20 minutes, you can do 3 in an hour. And if you work 6 hours a day, you're going to be doing 18 an hour. Like, if you just do the math, it just comes out to be years and years to get to 300K. Even if I throw like 500 recruiters at it, or even 5,000 recruiters at it, you're talking about something which it's not humanly possible to be screening that much in the quantum of time that we're talking about. Anyways, so these people have screened 300,000 people and have begun to do placements. So the way Mercor makes money is that, let's say they screened the person from my company who actually did their interview. Now they have that person's interview, resume, everything on their system. Then they go to Meta, OpenAI, whatever, and say like, hey, by the way, this person passed this interview at a 90% hurdle rate against all other candidates. Would you like to speak to him? They said, sure. And then, here's salary is $200,000 for this person, and they're taking a 30% cut. And so they're taking a sizable cut from the thing, which is basically in line with how most of the people sort of like charge in the traditional headhunting way. It's usually like 1 month, 2 months salary or 25% of annual salary. So they're in line. They're at the higher end of the curve. But, these guys have figured this thing out, which is, again, they took a very old school thing, which has been around for a long time, interviewing people, recruiting, matching people. It's been done forever. And in 2 years, they go from 0 to 50 mil. Last year, they raised a $32 million Series A valued at $250 million. So here's the deal, right? Hayes, which is the smallest one out of all the publicly listed ones, has a valuation of $1.6 billion. If this company, it grew 500% in 2024 from 1 million to 50 million in revenue. If in 2025, they grow from, let's say, 50 million to, let's say they 4x revenue, 200 million, this company is probably going to be worth as much as Hayes in the private markets at Series B.
Yeah, that's crazy. One thing that I think is going on, I remember like I was looking at a couple of years back, I was trying to like sell to companies that were looking for remote workers, my kind of freelancers. And there's job boards, and a lot of them are free, some of the websites, but like there are so many applicants on remote jobs because all of a sudden, like typically jobs are geographically confined. Whereas the minutes remote, like you can have, 50 country people applying and like the numbers become massive. So it becomes much more of a data and filtration issue if you're the company who's putting this posting. I think like that is part of the problem that they're solving that nobody really had to solve before remote work became big. Like it became much more of a data AI issue exactly because of, the nature of remote work.
Yeah, completely. I think you had more pools. So a lot of these larger companies had offices all over the place so they could do it. But again, they were expensive to use. Lots of people didn't use them. And I think it comes down to what you said, accessibility as well. Once you can make this, once remote work, like let's take a business that both of us know well, Growth Assistant or any of the Shepherd or Somewhere Now and things like that. Essentially, it's talent discovery in markets that were difficult to get to. They got there and then they said, oh, by the way, you can hire in Philippines at this rate per hour. And then we've seen it, how it's exploded. And like you're saying, it's all about like just getting the people discovered, bringing them onto the platform. Once it's there, monetization gets sorted out. All of these companies that we mentioned are legacy players. Last week, we discussed about consulting, right? And I think like the reason this is clearer cut than consulting is that, audit aside in the big four, like when audit functions, I do think like the only problem with audit functions is going to be that, public companies, will they trust the startup to audit their accounts? I don't think so. I don't think like they're going to want someone who's come up with a thing, because I could argue that what if they made a mistake in the audit? We're a public company. What if they miss something? Who's going to take liability? Blah, blah, blah. I can't sue the shit out of the thing. And that's why I think consulting audit has moats are built around it. But when I look at recruiting, I don't think it has as much of a moat. If you're a business and you need 10 engineers right now, and it's up to whoever can give you the best candidates, right? What happens to Upwork and all, I wonder, as a result of marketplaces like these?
Well, one thing I want to say before that is just I think AI is still just scratching the surface. Because if I were to define like almost my ideal experience, I'd want to describe the person that I'm looking for and almost have the AI kind of filter out the people that he thinks are best fit, and then even ask them, tell them, hey, like you've been selected as the top 10% for this potential job, and these are the questions that they want you to answer. So please ask them like that. When you get it to that level, and I can just quickly describe the role I want, and the AI is gonna filter, and then it's going to even ask them individualized question. Like I think recruiting can still improve so much. Like it's still relatively broken. So on Upwork and all this, I think it's, I think temp work is still structured a bit different in that like you're not hiring an employee. The person's probably working for several others at the same time. So I have a feeling the marketplaces will still be a little bit different, just because temp work is going to be more based on your reviews and there's some other dynamics. But I think like the same trends are going to apply, like I'm going to want to describe on Upwork who I want, and the AI is going to find the best people and an individualized question. So like I have a feeling the same process is going to play out, but I do think it's going to continue to happen on separate platforms.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. One of the things that Mercor could do, if they're looking at these bigger companies, they're seeing that they're generating 70% plus in temporary staffing solutions, right? So I'm pretty sure these are smart guys. If they were making a deck, they would have made a deck saying like, these are these big companies. I'm not going to be surprised if they did not sort of like highlight that. But they probably also showed like, if I'm the investor and I'm like, very good, you're going after the smaller sort of like percentage of their overarching revenue to create wedge and then get in. But the whole deal, how Mercor then becomes like a $10 billion company, is going to be unlocking temporary staffing solutions, right? So let's just say that they, in the next year, will interview another, I don't know, the scale up systems, they interview 700,000 people, and which is pretty an insane amount of people that you do. And let's say that now they take their best people who are not getting hired and then they make them available for temporary work, which means that Mercor launches its temporary marketplace where now, guess what, Ken? You don't need to filter anymore because these people have passed this interview at this level. So you can do your quick scan and then you can do it and start working with these people. And I think that for them unlocks their next growth, which goes against the whole staffing, temporary staffing that these guys are doing. And it also goes against Upwork, which is struggling right now, I think, as a public company. But I think like that could be very interesting. I think like these guys basically had a big ambition as well. Their goal is to build a unified global labor market. And when I read that, it makes me think like, yeah, ambitions are set high. They're 21. They have none of like my friends, myself, we've been in recruiting for a while. We understand what the challenges are, what problems there are with scaling this model, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is like 321-year-olds have no context. They have grown up in a very different world. They probably don't know too much about the executive search or blah, 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 this headhunting market. And that's what excites me about the future, because it's people like this which will disrupt these very large companies because they don't know what they don't know.
It reminds me of creating content on TikTok. Like,
yeah,
these Gen Zers, like, it just comes natural to them.
right.
You know, like I'm making these shorts and going through a lot of effort. And then I saw this one guy who's in this look maxing, and like it's this very simple style, but like it explodes, and I can tell why. But like for him, it's just natural. And I think like for these platforms as well, like for these younger generation, like it's just natural that it shouldn't work that old way, you know. And I played with their site a little bit, like, and it's, you can tell it's built by someone who understands like conversion and UX. You know, I clicked on one button, it showed me a whole bunch of interesting candidates that are probably designed to pique my interest, and I was like, oh wow, this guy like advised the Harvard Business Review. Let me click on him, and then boom, like register. You know, like they know all the tricks that are, yeah.
Yeah. So for anyone, so the topic of this podcast is called $1 Million Ideas. This was a $1 million idea in 2023. That was not too long ago. And the thesis was, I'm going to get these LLMs and these AI bots to basically interview people. And if we can interview enough people, then we'll be able to place them and make some money off it. And that turned out to be $1 million idea in 2023, a $50 million idea in 2024 in revenue terms. And if I was to bet, and if they continue, I think they easily eclipse 150, 200 mil in this year. We read headlines that, you know, Mercor raises money at $1 billion valuation. And because then it's just a race, right? Like one of the things in this AI race is like everyone's seen Mercor and now can build something similar, right? What Mercor has that the other people don't have is 300,000 interview data sets. The person who collects the data the fastest in this race is the one that is going to have an infinite advantage over second, third, fourth, fifth place movers. And I think like that's the good part and the scary part about this thing. Like, you know, once someone finds it and they double down, then the gap becomes pretty large for competitors to catch up with a tangential service.
The layoffs really played in their favor.
Right.
And has accelerated this whole game, because, you know, all these people got laid off. And especially in a place like America, people buy houses and they have families, they have kids that go to school. And like harder and harder to find a job where you can just stay in the same location. And so this, as all these layoffs hit, it just made remote work so much more prominent because these people didn't want to have to move, and they didn't want to have to, especially like before they saw whether they liked it. And so I think a platform like this, because they sit there and they're like watching the expenses run every month and they don't have a job and there's no income coming in. And like, if somebody can lend them something remote, like they're just in ecstasy, right? So like, I could totally see where the supply side, the labor is just jumping all over something like this.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that was fun. We're going to continue bringing more and more of these AI agents and AI twist ideas this year. And if you want us to discuss any other topics or stuff like that, please leave us a comment below, or it would really help us if you subscribe. We crossed 100 subscribers, so we're on the march to 1,000 subscribers now. So looking forward to hitting that metric soon. And with that, cool, Ken, this was fun. And yeah, see you next week. See ya.